Hi guys, Ali Taylor here, and today we're going to do my what's in the bag, but this one has got a little twist to it. Right, so what is the little twist for my what's in the bag? Well, it's not my current what's in the bag, it's what was in the bag for me in 1990. So I had been playing golf about 18 months, I'd made some really good progress, and I'd kind of just got my first, what I would consider proper set of irons. So I think I was off about 6 at the time, but I'd really wanted these irons for a few months, and it was great to get them. It's quite an interesting setup, and during lockdown in the UK, had a bit of time on my hands, maybe a little bit too much time on my hands, so I thought it'd be good to recreate my bag from 1990, give you guys a bit of an insight into what was in my bag back then. Might some of that stay in the bag now, having used it again, or might I be putting more modern versions to help make the game a little bit easier? But for now, let's see what was in my bag. Was I a good player as a kid? Or is it that long ago? I just remember it very, very differently. Right, so first club in the bag, the one we all get excited about, driver. The big dog. Now, back in these days, we definitely didn't call it the big dog because it is tiny. And when we look at the close-up of the head here, you know, anyone that's kind of my age, a little bit older, will remember these are real classic tailor-made burner. So it's 10.5 degrees, absolutely minuscule when you put it down next to the golf ball, almost the golf ball, very, very close to being as big as the club head. And the challenge is when you look at the modern drivers compared to those, you know, so much bigger, so much lighter, so much longer. You can move this quicker, not have to be as accurate with your strike and still hit it further. But back in the good old days, for me, this was really changed my game. Went from wooden headed drivers that just weren't forgiving at all into this which looked big, felt really, really forgiving. But then when you look at it now, I do wonder how I hit as many good tee shots as I did. So let's hit a couple with the old driver and see how it goes. So it felt a good strike, a little cutty one, so maybe not my best. So we can see there, obviously, club head speed is going to be down a little bit because of the length and the weight of the club, but we can see there with a solid strike, that smash factor still getting up at 1.47. Some good spin, but launching low and spinning a little bit more. Now I am using modern golf ball, so I have done a video how the old Bellata I played compared to Pro V1X, but I'm using Pro V1X for this. Let's go another one with driver. Let's try and get one going the other way. So again, ripped it. Nope, gonna have to take just straight. But I'll be honest there, decent carry, good distance, but confidence-wise, wow. The difference between these drivers nowadays, it's only really when I get them side by side you appreciate just how small that driver is. But like I said, I did move on to titanium drivers from that, but that really, really changed how I felt I could get going off the tee. So that moves me into irons. Now, like I said at the start of the video, in 1990 I'd only been playing golf around about 18 months, maybe just under 2 years, and I had a full set of irons that were I think they were called Easy 3s, kind of very Ping I2 copies. So I would have considered these Mizuno TP11s my first proper set of irons. And I was so excited to get these. And when you look at the head, they are, even though these are old now and a little bit dinked up, a phenomenal looking golf club. And certainly some of the best players in the world were using these. You know, Nick Faldo was using Mizuno, and as a kid I really, really admired watching his golf game. Now, I obviously purchased these on eBay during lockdown. Lockdown was a dangerous time for sitting around thinking of things to do. And I have actually been out on the course a couple of times with them. And the biggest adjustment for me is just distance because of the lofts. So this pitching wedge is 47 degrees, which nowadays is very, very weak. So I would normally hit my i500 pitching wedge around 133 to 135. So let's hit this and see what it comes out at. And we can see there at 120, that's pretty good. So just didn't quite get that one. You do see obviously a bit of a drop off when you don't quite get them. But the good solid one with this seems to be round about 120. And if I'm being honest, that actually gaps in perfectly into my bag under my current gap wedge. Now the thing is, this set was 3 to pitching wedge and sand wedge. So we went from 47 degrees in the pitching wedge into 56 for the sand wedge. And I did only carry the sand wedge. So I had to be much more versatile with how I used to play little shots around the green. And certainly growing up playing links golf, there was a lot of bump and runs. So those kind of mid to shorter irons looked great, felt great, and it was really, really easy to play them. Now, obviously, the biggest challenge with these clubs is loft and lack of forgiveness. So I'll be honest, it's not been a huge change for me. It's just been playing 1 or 2 more clubs into the green. And I know everybody says, would you not rather hit an 8-iron than a 6-iron? Yes, but if the 8-iron and 6-iron have got the same loft, really that doesn't make a difference. But the big challenge with these, and I remember this as a kid, is when you get the 3-iron out, it's a very small little head. You know you've got to put a really good swing on this. But because we're still getting into similar lofts then, a good strike should go a fairly similar distance. Now that was a little bit out the toe, but still got out at 200 yards. So wasn't my best one. Certainly the more modern stuff, you get away with that a little bit more. Let's go 1 more 3-iron. That was a better strike. Bit pulley. But you can see I can still get that out, kind of nearly 210 carry, nearly 230 total. So it's been eye-opening for me, because certainly the last couple of rounds I've played with these and my ball striking has actually been very good. So it is really making me consider putting blades back in the bag. But I do think the more modern blades would give me that little bit more forgiveness. Now the funny thing is, you'll notice that I went from driver to 3-iron. So there was no fairway wood in my bag as a kid. And it was because I really struggled getting fairway woods in the air, struggled with the strike, and I can completely imagine with how small that club head is, how with the driver, how I just wouldn't have fancied a 3-wood or a 5-wood behind the golf ball. And it kind of made me a better long iron player. So I'd go driver, 3-iron to pitching wedge, sand wedge, and then putter. Now, probably my favourite putter from the time was the Wilson TPA. Now I did chop and change a huge amount, and because again I've got this from online, it's by no means still the best finished putter, but I still really, really like the shape. I mean, anyone that's seen some of my old videos will know I've actually got a Scotty Cameron Delmar 3.5 that is almost identical in shape, but I love the look of this. Still really like all the lines on the back. I think it makes it really, really easy to aim. But the one thing I have noticed with this is when you do hit your putts, how firm that putter head feels compared to modern putters. Obviously with inserts, different materials for the face. None of that was available in technology, but I love the look, I love the feel. And again, you know, Nick Faldo was using this. That was the prime reason for me going to buy it. The good news is that's kind of changed now. People don't just buy clubs that their favourite players use. They get fitted, find what works best, and that helps you play better. But you can see for me, not carrying 14 clubs, part of, I think, the equipment I carried was very much down to the golf course I was playing. Links golf, I love the way that the blade sat behind the golf ball. Drivers, as they started getting bigger, I think I was able to kind of put a bit more speed into my swing, but I was never a huge hitter. It was about getting the ball in play and then having a good iron game and actually hitting a lot of fairways and greens, which might sound a little bit unusual when you see my stuff now, but I was definitely, I think, more focused on strike, and the equipment I used made that a necessity. So we could see from the scary driver. Now, to be honest, like I said, that at the time did look a decent size. Now that is absolutely minuscule. That moved me into no fairway wood. Hybrids weren't knocking around in those days. So moved me into blades. Now, probably if I could go back and give my 15-year-old self a bit of advice, maybe something with a little bit more forgiveness would have been a bit more fun to play with. And I was very, very hard on myself as a kid with my ball striking, and that probably didn't make it any easier. Well, definitely didn't make it any easier. But I have been super impressed with how well I've hit those in the couple of little games I've had, bearing in mind they're 30 years old. So they go relatively nowhere, but that's because of the lofts. And like I said, I am comfortable. Just because it says 6 on the bottom instead of 7 or 8, it's the loft of the club that's giving me the distance. I'm kind of comfortable with those. So no gap wedge back then because you didn't necessarily need to. And at that point, I didn't have a lob wedge, which I would say the biggest addition to making it easy for creativity around the greens was that lob wedge, particularly at old links with big, deep bunkers. The 60 degree when I first got one felt like a club from heaven, made it a lot easier to get out. But putter, I did chop and change a lot, but this was, if not my favourite growing up, one of my favourites. But like probably a lot of juniors, once I started missing putts, it was never my fault, it was always this fault. Might not have always ended up in one piece, my putters as well, so some of them did get retired to the naughty home for putters, but didn't have 14 clubs in my bag, which back then I didn't really care about. And it does make me think about how many guys that carry 14 clubs now that probably only use 8, 9, 10 at most. So some of you guys out there could probably streamline your bags a little bit. So guys, hope you've enjoyed my What's in the Bag video from 1990. I'm gonna let you guys decide this. Part of me really wants to go and play 18 holes with everything from 1990. I have used the irons. They weren't nearly as scary as I thought they might be. The putter doesn't bother me at all. The driver does concern me a little bit. So I think if I get enough likes and enough views on this video, and I'm not going to be silly. Let's say if this video gets 5,000 views and 1,000 likes, I will play 18 holes with these clubs, post my score, and leave myself open to all the comments that will undoubtedly come with that. So guys, hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, like and share it, comment below, and I'll get back to as many people as I can. If you've enjoyed today's content and you don't currently subscribe, please consider clicking that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and then you find out whenever I drop a new video. Follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Ali Taylor Golf. Hopefully catch up with some of you guys down here soon. Stay in contact.